8 minutes after 6 a.m., August the 2nd, 1983. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, radio station WHTZ signs on the air.
From the top of the Empire State Building, the Big Show meets the Morning Zoo on WCBS FM and WCBS FM HD1 New York.
And now, live and direct from a special theater in Soho, New York, the greatest city in the world. It's time for the nearly famous, highly outrageous, but never ever contagious, one and only no baloney, Z Morning Zoo Big Show Weekend Blast-Off Spectacular. All right, yeah. If I'm lying, I'm dying, and grits ain't groceries, eggs ain't poultry,
and Mona Lisa was a man.
And now, if everybody is ready,
reach over, grab your knob.
Oh, ow.
Sorry. Turn up the radio because it's time to kiss the week goodbye.
Welcome to the weekend.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thank God it's
Friday. Flashing back to the 80s, boy, and the Morning Zoo reunion. I got people that work for me that weren't even alive when we did that. If you want to feel old.
And some of us don't even remember the 80s.
Yeah, and they're telling us what to do. Yeah. That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
Shut up.
How'd that happen?
The funny thing about it is I told the story the other day when we first started the radio station. At that time, the record industry really didn't go to Secaucus. All the promotion guys, like one of the guys here today, Jerry Limbo,
yeah,
they didn't know how to get there. Cabs, they got around by cabs, and cabs didn't go to Secaucus back then.
Right.
They found their way.
Right?
Yeah, they made it. Hell yeah.
I used to go in that rickety Acme market over there. I thought I was in some sort of a time tunnel.
You were.
One night, Bill took me out to dinner. He said, I'm going to take you to this diner. There's a real hot chick there. Everybody knows her. Lady comes up, she had to be 75 years old. and she, remember, she was showing the girls?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not all of them.
Atta girl.
Was written on the Z100 Morning Zoo. Today's show is brought to you by Uncle Wally's Wiener World.
Who?
Uncle Wally's Wiener World. No. Remember, if your girlfriend is missing and you haven't seen her, she's probably at Wally's having a wiener. With me?
101.1.
Holy moly. What a day. What a flashback. Man, I'm not one of those kind of guys that sits around and don't think about what I've done and things that happened in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but listening to that gives you goosebumps, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things in digging out this stuff to put on the show, stuff I absolutely forgot about.
We had some pretty great stuff going in that morning.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And Patty also, for those who don't know, worked at Z100 for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yep. I watched from the outside, but it was really fun watching you guys.
Yeah, but you also watched from the inside for a while.
Yeah, I did a little bit of everything there. I think I was a disc jockey every single shift at some point.
Yeah.
As either working it or filling in.
And the problem was for poor Patty was her husband took over as program director when I left, and he wanted to keep the budget down, so he worked his wife constantly.
Oh, forget the budget. What he would do is I would be sound asleep, and he'd go, "You got to get up. Somebody's not coming in." And I was
damn
like,
Ross Britton is sleeping this morning.
Whatever shift it was, I had to race in there.
You were always there.
And Scott, I remember coming into the studio one morning and Ross Britton was holding a helicopter up to the mic and pretending he was some kind of a traffic announcer.
Cornfield.
And
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Exactly. and you were reading the news right out of the paper and said to the people, "Hey, look, turn to page 6 of the Daily News. You can read along with me."
Yeah.
And I went to my office and started sending out resumes. I said, "Man,
This ain't gonna work.
This is great. This certainly is not going to last very long.
And your original weathercast where you looked out the window and whatever you saw,
Yeah,
that was
that's
it.
what we said. We said, hey, we don't really have a weathercaster.
He still does that.
And so we're just going to look out the window and give you the weather. And that's the funny thing about it that you forget about, Ross, is that that show and that station inspired so many people to get into the radio business.
Oh, yeah.
And we had no idea what we were doing back then. We just came in and tried to do a radio show.
Right.
And we brought Ross in because he'd been in New York radio for a while.
With Joe.
Yep.
At WABC.
Yeah. And we were like, I guess he knows about this, how to do this. I don't have a damn clue. I'm from Tampa.
Well, that's how I got my job. I thought I was pretty good, and that's why you hired me. But I discovered a little bit later on it was only because I knew how to pronounce Montauk, Long Island, and Bogota, New Jersey.
I remember the first time I was on, and Bell goes like this, "Listen, it's the Bronx, but it's not the Queens."
Those are two different things.
Okay, let me jot that down. I got that. Okay. But the one song I couldn't find was "Comb Your Hair, Brush Your Teeth."
Oh, my God.
Boy.
And the one person I couldn't find to be here, well, we found him. But we couldn't get him here, Mr. Leonard.
Oh.
Well, we got enough Mr.
He
Leonard
still may come.
from the...
I
Okay.
trust him.
Are you serious? He
Patty,
never shows up.
You are so...
I would not bet on it, Patty.
You are so
But
naive.
he's so sweet yesterday.
Yes, he was
said
such a nice
Yeah,
guy.
he said, I really want to be there.
He's a weasel. No doubt about it. And I think anybody that was listening back then remembers this little thing. Ross used to say, "Turn that off, it's driving me crazy." It's the official Morning Zoo Horriblescopes. Claire kicks them off.
Hey, Capricorn, be a little less businesslike and a little more casual with everybody. It's time to let your guard down.
And if you're an Aquarian, healthy contradictions are bringing out an interesting side of you today, so continue to explore them.
Pisces, even if you don't believe in telepathy, it's going to be very, very strong today. Make sure to jump immediately on the advantage of apparent coincidences.
Hey, and you Aries, time to find uses for things and people no one else appreciates. Look for some gold in amongst that garbage.
Hey, Taurus, the dark horse is coming closer and growing brighter. Decide today if you want to take a chance on it.
And you twins, Gemini, how about a hiatus or a cooling off period? Let everyone sit and stew a couple of days. And those are your official horoscopes. And remember,
don't leave home without them.
Now I remember why we don't do those anymore. Nothing about you guys.
Oh, no.
I forgot why, and now I remember. 6:30 on the button. It's Scott and Ross. It's the Morning Zoo reunion on CBS FM. Joe's got memories, right?
Hey, Joe. Yes, I do. I remember taking the train when I was going into high school, and you guys would always be on the radio. And a lot of times I'd be on the train with a Sony Walkman, starting hysterical laughing. And people on the train thought I was completely insane because they're like, why would this guy laugh on the train by himself, sitting in the corner of the train?
You better get somebody to get him off this train. He could be dangerous.
That's correct. And so one guy one time asked me, he said, why would you, I see you a couple times every week on the train. He goes, what were you laughing? I says, oh, there's a bunch of old kooks on the radio, and I used to laugh at them all the time.
We weren't old kooks then.
Yeah, we were
Well, you might be today.
It's
we
all
find
relative.
offense to that. So you were on the air, wherever on the air, and I want to dedicate the show today to two people who are no longer with us, J.R. Nelson and a young kid named Spanky McFarland.
Oh,
Who
yes.
had this kid.
Yes.
This kid, one of the few people I ever met that loved radio as much as I did, and it was just a wonderful kid. And he used to drive around the Mr. Leonard lime green Pinto.
That's right,
Sure,
yeah.
yes.
Remember the lime green Pinto?
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird too because, like I said, when we first started, we just didn't have a big budget.
It didn't have hardly any money at all. And in fact, at one point we had Scott sing jingles because we had no money.
We weren't that. Were we really that desperate?
Yes, we were.
Do you have any of those?
We had a little like was it a Casio?
Yes, keyboard.
A little keyboard. I mean, it was about this big.
And fortunately, JR could play the keyboard, so that was professional because
Right.
he played with a band. But Scott singing,
Ooh.
oh my God.
somewhere and people say, yeah, weren't you the guy on the morning zoo? And they say, whatever happened to Mr. Leonard? Well, he is still alive. We don't know where, but and there's so many different stories that he would tell.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God, yes.
This is one of my favorites we managed to dig up. There was a fella who's been in the news lately, a professional wrestler by the name of Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
And one day he was up on the show doing a special interview. And Mr. Leonard, obviously, who never listened to the show when he was up in the morning and trying to get to work, he didn't know that Hulk Hogan was on the show. Well, anyway, let's take it from there.
Now, does anyone remember the day professional wrestler Hulk Hogan stopped by the zoo?
Yeah, and he parked his car in Mr. Leonard's parking space?
I'm calling downstairs from the PayPal and I am madder than that down.
What's the matter? Are the elevators out again?
No, the elevators are not again.
What is the problem? Come on.
Some idiot, someone with the unmitigated gauze, some pencil-neck geek is parked in my parking space.
Someone's parked in your private parking space?
Can't they read it says Mr. Len, Leonard?
Hulk, what kind of car you got, man?
Yeah. Well, you know, man, I've been sitting here just taking all this gaga in from that little old limp-wristed Mr. Leonard, you know, and I wanted to tell the dude in person I wasn't going to admit that it was my ride out there, you know.
Yeah, you were
I was hoping that he would come upstairs here, but as far as Mr. Leonard, he don't even have enough credentials to drive a car. You know, the dude talks about a parking spot, man. He don't have no parking spot out there. He couldn't even afford to hire DC Cab to bring him over here. And you know what? I'm going to come down there for that Mr. Leonard, and they're going to not only need an ambulance, they're going to need a double-decker stretcher, because when I snap him in half, they're going to put his shoulders and head on the top of the stretcher.
I found out whose car that is.
That's right, it's my car.
Mr. Leonard?
I knew it was your car, Hawk. I knew all the time.
Oh, Mr. Leonard, that little girlish little laugh you get on there. You know, you probably got Roddy Piper's skirt on downstairs, hiding in the phone booth because, you know, there ain't nobody home upstairs in your brain, and I'm sure there ain't nothing downstairs under that skirt.
Mr. Leonard, I think Hulk's coming down to move the car and speak with you about it, so don't move.
Yeah, well, you think you're mad now. Wait till you find out and let all the air out of your tires.
No. Now, you're Joe Nolan traffic on CBS FM.
Jerry, I want to ask a few of these wonderful people their favourite memories from the great days of the early 80s. Amanda, what's your greatest memory of the Z Morning Zoo?
I was born in 2000.
Good job, Brad. Good job, Brad.
I'll go to the mother. Sorry.
That's our Brad Blanks, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, I'm Julie. I just wanted to say that it was wonderful to hear you guys every day. You bring so much laughter into people's lives and distraction, and just to see Brad grow as a reporter has been incredible.
Brilliant. He really has grown, hasn't he? Hi, young lady. What do you think about
bad in a hurry.
Well, also one of the early contributors to our Z Morning Zoo was a guy who happened to be in dental school at the time.
That's right.
Yes. Dr. Dave Coleman, ladies and gentlemen.
Dave. Dr. Dave.
And now he supplies comedy and songs to radio stations all around the world.
Yeah.
He has a kingdom.
Yeah.
And
A kingdom.
he looks after our teeth.
And I look after your teeth. Yeah.
Now you were in dental school, right?
I got the call from Scott. I sent him a tape because one of my patients said, you should be sending a tape to this radio station. They're completely ridiculous, and you're a funny guy. You should send in a tape.
And you were a man of 1,000 voices.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, yes. And I remember you used to call while you were actually working on
I'm working
a
on
patient.
patients, but I never told anybody that officially on the air.
That's right.
Funny, I was watching Sunday afternoon football all by myself at the Harmon Cove Towers.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
And Trish had not agreed to come to New York with me at the time because we weren't married, and she was not going to live with me unless we were married.
Well, of course
well,
not.
good for you. You stay right down there. I'm going. I'll be fine for a while.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there. I'm going through a bunch of cassette tapes, and I found this one. It sounded like it's like a 17-year-old kid going, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And I called him up on Sunday afternoon. I think I had a couple cocktails before I called you.
He said, he said to me, you're a what? And I said, well, I'm a dentist. And he said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever...
Sounds like him.
I forget. Are you sure I said it like that?
that was you.
He
That
said,
is him.
You
That's
said,
him.
I kind of think that's just weird enough to where this might work.
Yeah.
I'll hire you. I'll pay you $25 a week.
Ooh.
And I was like, where do I sign?
All right, calm down.
And so once a week, Dave would come in, and we'd get in the studio with John Bell and J.R. Nelson, and we'd write stuff, and then bring it to you the next day. You never heard it until it went on the air a lot of times.
Well, sometimes I had this. Sometimes I see the script and I say, all right, let me go. Take that out of there, take that out of there.
Oh, that was
and then
blind.
Ross will go, oh, for God's sakes, we got to do it again. And here's a little bit of the, you recognize him as this guy who had a group called the Jackson 5. Do a little bit of that for us.
Oh,
Yeah, right now. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all
Or
Hi,
he
Scott.
had,
I'm not like other guys.
he had some other talent. Take a listen to this thing.
It's the Zissou in the morning. The Zissou in the morning. In the morning. In the morning.
Hello, this is Fast Freddy with the story of Z100. August 1983, Z100 hits the airwaves. Everybody laughs, ha ha ha, but not belong. Z100 beats WABC, WABP, WKHK, WKQ, WBLS, WNBC, Quack Quack, and all the rest. With the ZooCast, Scott Shine, and Russ Britton, J.R. Nelson, Blair Stevens, Captain Kevin, John Bell, Mr. Leonard, Tired as a Dog, Mad as a Dog, Sick as a Dog, and Z Search, Cabbage Patch Dolls, free money giveaways, Mystery Oldies, Devil's Dance, Heine Wine, Pocket Wine, Michael Jackson, Ronald Reagan, New from the Booties, Cornfield, Larry Booger. Finally, the story breaks. Z100 is number 1, Channel 5 News, 2 in the town, Good Morning America. 74 days, Z100 goes from worst to first, faster than it takes a letter to go from Brooklyn to East Hanover. Congratulations, this is Fast Freddy, the fast story of Z100.
Oh my God.
As a history of the
history
morning
of-
zoo.
In 30 seconds or
Federal
less.
Express guy. Remember that guy who talked real fast?
Yes. He is Dr. Dave, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
It is the Zoo Morning Reunion right here on CBS FM.
The Morning Zoo Flashback.
Spectacular! For the extra large and turbocharged original Z Morning Zoo, Claire Stevens, Jonathan E. Bell, MTV guy Adam Curry, Coach Mike, sold by the number 100, Ross the Boss Britain, and the Ramming Jammin' Michael Scott Chan of the always dapper radio rapper, the Joy Boy, the Joy Toy, the Daddy of the Radio. We are on the air everywhere, broadcasting live around the world on the electrifying Mojo Funk Intercontinental Boogie La Rock and Roll Radio Network. And remember, if I'm lying, I'm dying, and grits ain't groceries, eggs ain't poultry, and Mona Lisa was a man!
From the Adorama Theater in New York City. This is the Morning Zoo Reunion Spectacular.
All right. If I tried that today, I think I would actually pass out.
Oh, you could do that.
You throw a belt.
JR was actually the first partner I had on Z100.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't have anybody to talk to. JR, get in here from the production room. And we only had one microphone at that station.
I remember that.
Right.
Fody only had one microphone. They only gave him the budget for one. So JR would unscrew his from the production room and bring it into the studio. And then what happened?
And then, 2 weeks after you went on, I was fired at ABC. Somehow, that always happens to me.
Every time you say you were fired, everybody laughs.
Yeah, I know.
Why do you get joy from his?
I don't know. And so I came over to interview with you, and I said I knew you had just fired the afternoon guy there because he wasn't taking orders.
That's our
He
business.
might have just left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh, yeah.
so I said,
You were holding him back.
After showing the door to him.
I said I'd like to do the afternoon show, and you go, no, you're not an afternoon guy. You're a morning guy. And I went, okay, well, you're already doing the morning show, so I'll see you later. And then he says, well, wait a minute, how would you like to work with me? You got, and that was...
If you had any other job, any other alternative at that point, you go, no thanks. No, it's the last thing I want to do.
That was my entire job interview. We shook hands.
That was it?
That was it.
Did you bring your own microphone?
Did you go see HR?
Yeah, no, there was no HR back then.
Tell me about it. There was nobody there. You know what? I remember at the end of the studio, there was a card table. All the stuff was set up.
Yes.
I remember that.
We didn't have an actual console in a sense. It was a fold-up leg card table.
Fody got that from Cleveland. He brought that down from Cleveland with him.
And it was in that back room, that little studio back
in the
there.
back.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they finished the real control room. We moved in there.
That looked over the beautiful swamps of New Jersey.
We ought to thank Dean Thacker, who was our general manager at the time, and the illustrious Gary Fisher, who decided to spend the rest of his life in Atlantic City.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, his days in Atlantic City. It was just a very special time. And, of course, the legendary Little Larry Booger,
Yeah.
who at that time was working over at PLJ. And
he was a target for a while.
For some reason, he didn't bother to show up today. I don't know why.
Everybody was always a target. For
Exactly.
And we got this nice note from Valdis, and he says all the talk about the Morning Zoo reunion. It reminded me, I mentioned this on the other day, he actually saved this Superman comic book because one of the listeners we had then was Jerry Ordway, who wrote, illustrated for Superman.
Wow.
Oh, and I'd love to have one of those.
And in one of the scenes, he actually had a billboard, which is the picture that hangs up behind me.
Wow.
And he put it in the Superman magazine.
That's a collector's item.
How
You
about
could
that?
go on eBay and see if it's there.
Yeah.
Boy, guys,
Yeah, we got the number of the book, whatever book it was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Valdis. It's December 88, page 13. And that's the one. And another nice note from Joanne Simoli Witt of Simioli?
Yes, Simonelli.
Simonelli.
Some things don't
Yes.
Said 1983, I worked for the Irving Trust Company, 1 Wall Street in New York City. Along with me, the best bunch of co-workers. We worked in the reconciliation department on the 19th floor, and we always had the Z Morning Zoo on. We had a great time. The antics of your morning absolutely lasted throughout the day. So thank you so much, Joanne.
Nice.
We do appreciate
Do
that.
you guys remember? I don't remember the guy's name who was the radio commentator for one of the local newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
And after Scott had come into town, he had been in just a few weeks, and he did kind of a write-up on Scott.
Maxian?
George Maxian.
right.
That's
It wasn't really a write-up. It was a write-down.
No, what he said is that he said, I don't know how long this morning zoo's going to last. Scott Shannon came up from Tampa. I hope he got a round-trip ticket.
And do you remember we did a bumper sticker that said, I break for George Maxian?
Yes.
The problem was after that article came out, I got home, and by that time, Trish was in the home with me. And
She gave in.
no, I gave in. And she was crying when I got home. Because she saw that magazine. She saw the newspaper article.
Yeah.
And it said, I hope he's got a round-trip ticket because he's going back soon. And she just unpacked her stuff. And you're thinking, uh-oh. Whoa.
Slow it down, baby.
That guy didn't know what he's talking about. Don't you worry about that. It is exactly 9:36. Joe, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. What?
Just
He's
jump in there.
napping.
Want to make sure.
Shannon and the Big Show flashing back to the 80s with the Morning Zoo reunion on CBS FM.
Well, that was easy. Huh?
How you say so?
Yeah.
Did you think it wouldn't be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a little nervous.
I'd be lying if I wasn't a little bit nervous last night. I told Ross I think I was more nervous today than I was back in '83 when we signed on.
You told me that this morning.
Well, that's because nobody was listening back
Nobody was
then.
listening. And all those old cooters from WV&J, those are the ones that were listening, and they didn't care about that kid, that little punk from Tampa.
They were flipping the knob off as fast as they could.
I want to say thanks again to McDonald's, Medieval Times, Autoland, was it Travel?
New Jersey Travel and Tourism, River Spring Health, and of course, Adorama, the theater we're in.
Yeah, we're right here.
Yeah.
And I want to thank all of you people who got up and came down here.
Yeah.
All of our big
Thank you.
P1 listeners from 1983 and from 2016. We certainly love you and appreciate you listening.
Yeah.
And thanks to you, Ross. God bless you, my friend.
Me?
It's good to see you again. Claire.
This has been great. Thanks, Scott.
Jonathan B. Bell.
Happy to be here, Scott. Let's do it again next week.
Yeah, what am I doing?
Friday.
Kermit just passed out upstairs.
And thank you, Patty, for coming today.
Delighted.
And thank you, Joe, for whatever it is you do.
It has been my honor to sit on the stage with all these legends. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Joe.
I wasn't talking about you.
Louie Felicia, our producer, put the thing together along with Kermit the Wonder Frog.
Yeah.
Trevor Marden, my boy. And thanks to Jim Ryan and Mark and Scott Herman for making it happen. Mark Rayfield and Scott Herman for letting us do it. Frank and Karina in the promotion department and Econis.
And whoever gave that $100 bill to the listener.
Oh, we know who that
Yeah, that came from another radio station. Yeah.
And who did I miss? Henry Baring, our engineer.
Oh, yeah.
And Steve Apria back in the back. Joey from Staten Island. He says go to WCBSFM.com for all the lowdown on this mess that we did.
Do we get to keep the drum set? That's awesome. We need
I think
that.
we're going to auction that off or something. Maybe a blight. I don't know what we're going to do with it. You know who owns it, don't you?
Who?
Dan Taylor.
Yes.
Then that's going home then.
Thanks to him, too, then. And Broadway for stopping in.
Broadway Bill Lee and Dan Taylor, we love you. Frank Fody, Anita Bonita, everybody else in the early days of Z100, thank you for being here. And once again, I don't know why they let us do this. On CBS FM, thanks to everybody.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be appropriate to let one of the guys from the early days take us out of here.
Okay, calm down. All right, I'll close it now. Bye, buckaroos. Everybody sing.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
I think I'm off key.
I'm off.
What else is new?
Till we meet again.
All right.